Nobody panic, just a little craft room shenanigans happening over here. Today we're taking these unfinished Dollar Tree wood gnomes from last year's stash and giving them a full St. Patrick's Day glow up. I've got the boy gnome and the girl gnome here, so for this tutorial, we're going to start with this little guy. First things first, I've pulled some fabrics from my stash. I've got a stack of oranges for the beard and a stack of greens for the hat and the breeches, including these adorable vintage shamrock prints. This is Pellon 805 Wonder Under, and it's a versatile paperback fusible web that bonds material to material, and you can buy it at reinventingvintage.com. Now I'm taking the gnome apart using this little Dollar Tree flat blade, and whoops, there goes the nose. It totally launched, but I got it. And so we'll just continue by taking the other pieces apart. I'm starting with the beard using this orange homespun plaid. I lay the fabric face up onto the rough side of the Wonder Under, cut out a piece, and give it a good press with a hot dry iron. I then lay the fused fabric face up on the beard piece, flipping it over, and I trace the shape from the back. Somehow I missed the recording and the tracing step, but you can see the finished cutout and it fits perfectly. Next, we'll make the breeches. I'm using this dark green polka dot fabric. It's the same process. I fuse the fabric, lay it face side up on the wood piece and flip it over, trace it, and cut it out. And now for the hat, which is attached to the beard. I'm using this vintage shamrock print. I loosely cut a piece of the fabric a little bigger than the area that I'm trying to cover. I do the same thing for the Wonder Under and fuse them together. Lay it face up on the hat area, and because it's connected to the beard, since I can't trace all the way around, I just trace up the two sides to the top and then stop about an inch below where the hat will end. This gives me room to shape the brim later. Now I lay the cutout over the gnome to find the center point of the brim. The first thing that I need to do is locate the bottom of the brim, so I make a mark on either side. The front of his hat has a wavy curve up in the middle and then down on the sides, and my little deli cup happens to match that curve perfectly. I just eyeball where the highest point of the center of the curve is, and using the cup, I trace around the top of the curve, and then flip it over to draw the two downward curves on either side, making sure that I don't go past the marks that I made earlier. And now all three curves meet to create that cute little wavy brim. Cutting along that line, I trim off the excess, and it fits perfectly. The last piece that I need to applique is his cute little nose. I'm using this peach-colored fabric, and just like the steps before, I'll fuse it and trace it and cut it out. So now I have all four pieces appliqued, and I'm almost ready to assemble, but there's one more step. To release the Wonder Under backing, I use a straight pen and I make a tiny slit. Then I peel the paper away to expose the fusible web. I'll do this for all four pieces: the beard, the breeches, the hat, and the nose. And now we get to start assembling. I line up the breeches on the wood, cover it with a piece of parchment paper, and I press the hot dry iron on, repeating this process for the beard, the hat, and the nose. Once I have everything fused, I take a 180 grit nail file and I sand off the excess fabric. This leaves a clean edge and exposes a little raw wood, which is exactly what we want because we're going to treat that edge next. And working my way around, I just clean up as much as I can using the nail file. I will do this for all of the pieces. But before we move on, we need to apply or applique the hat onto the wood. So just like before, we're going to fuse it to the wood, this time overlapping the hat onto the beard, and then clean it up with the nail file just like we did before. I'll use my tiny pointed scissors to snip away any of the stray threads. Now to bring this little guy to life, we're going to add some dimension using my Ranger ink markers. These markers have two tips, a very fine point tip, and a brush marker. The brush is the side we're going to be using for this project. I color the raw wood edge first, and then add a soft shadow onto the fabric to give everything some depth. For the hat, I'm using pine needles. For the beard, dry marigold. For the nose, tattered rose. And for the breeches, pine needles plus a little black soot for a deeper shadow. Now I'm going to make a little braided trim for the brim of the hat. I rip a 1-inch strip of dark green homespun, divide it into 3, and braid it. I want this to feel a little rustic, so I'm looking for that kind of tattered raw edge. Before I apply the trim, I smush a little hot glue into the ends of the 3 braided pieces to keep it together. Then I glue it down along the brim, following the wavy curve. The little piece that we cut off at the end, I'm going to save that for later because we're going to add a little embellishment. Now that we have all of our pieces done, it's time to assemble. I'll glue the nose just under the hat at the curve using a combo of E6000 and hot glue. The E6000 gives a permanent hold, and the hot glue gives us an instant grab. I'll also glue the other pieces together in the same way. And one tip to make sure that I don't get glue outside of the area that I want to adhere is to eyeball where the lines meet and make sure that I don't get any glue above that mark. Now I'm going to make a little pom-pom for the tip of the hat using the leftover scraps from the braided trim. I gather all 3 scraps together in my hand and fold the whole bundle over onto itself twice. That gives me a nice chunky little cluster with all of the raw edges pointing outward. I then take a piece of very thin coordinating ribbon, just something that matches the fabrics I've been using, and tie it tightly around the center of that folded bundle. Once it's secured, I trim all of the ends so they're even and fluffy. And because I'm gluing fabric to fabric, I'm not going to use the E6000 on this part because the hot glue will hold the fabric just fine. And once I get it in place, I give it a little fluff, and that's it. Look how cute this little gnome guy turned out. And just like all of our projects here at Reinventing Vintage, this little guy is going to be up for grabs. So if you want a chance to win him, make sure you're following along with Reinventing Vintage and stay tuned for our giveaway announcements. And if you've enjoyed this St. Patrick's Day applique tutorial, stay tuned because next we're making the coordinating girl gnome using the exact same technique with a whole different personality. She turned out so adorable. I can't wait to show you how she comes together. Thanks for crafting with Reinventing Vintage. See you next time.